Hello, Dr. Shinde sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon, one and all. On behalf of Regional Academic Authority, Aurangabad, we welcome all enthusiastic, innovative, and equally creative teacher of Maharashtra. Friends, RAA has started this initiative to enhance the linguistic capacities of our teachers. Our prime aim is to discuss various issues of English teaching and learning. For that sake, we are inviting experts who possess such authority to elaborate these issues in front of us. Last 16th July, we had started this webinar series, and it is decided that every fortnight, means after every 15 days, we will come together on this platform and we would listen one eminent personality who is constantly working for student and training teachers. In this first webinar, we had invited Mr. Suyog Dikshit, who is a primary teacher in Nashik and presently doing research work at University of Warwick in United Kingdom. We got such a huge response for that first session. And friends, let me tell you that you can, those who have missed that session, you can listen it, which is available on our YouTube of regional academic authorities also. Friends, uh, for this session, today we have invited Mr. Uh, Nisar Sheikh, who is one of the teacher of Jilla Parishad schools under JDP Aurangabad, and who is presently working as a scholar of University of Leeds in United Kingdom. Here, our director, Honorable Dr. Kalimuddin Sheikh sir is present. I welcome him. And for this webinar, we have invited our special guest. He is Mr. Rajesh Kankal sir. Mr. Kankal sir is a Deputy Director of Education with BMC Mumbai. And he is one of the very knowledgeable and supportive officer, let me tell you. And at the same time, he is a poet by heart. Many of us are unknown with this distinguished quality of Mr. Kankal. So on behalf of RA, I welcome Mr. Rajesh Kankal sir. Now I request Dr. Sheikh sir to address this session. Dr. Sheikh sir. I think he is facing problem to join the session.
Actually, Sheikh Saib is not seeing in the group.
I think limit, because
limit
I think he is
already
trying to join.
Yes.
It is exceed.
Yes.
Okay.
I am trying to join.
Yeah. Till then, I would like to. I would like to request Mr. Kankal sir. Is Kankal sir there?
Yes. Kankal sir is there, and they are.
Yes, sir. I have joined.
Yes. I would like to Mr. Kankal sir to address us.
I am very happy that today Honorable Taide sir requests me to be the part of this particular session. I am very happy that something new I can learn from this session, because after joining administrative services, the touch of English is little bit broken down, and for that matter, I'm very happy to be the part of this particular program. First of all, I'm thankful to Taide sir and the RAA Aurangabad, which is in real sense my alma mater, because I have been the part of SIEM, and SIM taught me so many things. With administration, it taught me the core of the language. And here I learn that for the language, it is most important thing. You must have the vocabulary, rich vocabulary is the part of your good language. If you want to communicate, it is not possible without the words to communicate. Non-verbal communication is the part, but that is a supportive to the language. But main language is denoted with only the words, and written form of language is the best form where you can reach to so many people. And because of all this, vocabulary is the great or backbone of the language. For that matter, today we are discussing about the vocabulary, teaching, learning of vocabulary, and the role of vocabulary in the language. All these things will be discussed in this particular session, and I am happy to be the part of this. And I am happy to have the part of this such kind of program where we have the dignitaries or speakers joining from abroad, though they are the part of our system, but now they are learning abroad, and this communication will give us enriched pedagogy of teaching, learning, vocabulary. So I am very excited and looking forward to all these sessions. And this initiative is the great initiative for all our teachers, primary teachers as well as secondary teachers, which are here in this particular program today. Because learning stops when you join the duty, and we have very less opportunities to learn the language. And learning is the most important thing, because when your learning stops, your teaching also stops, your pedagogy become a stagnant thing. For that, RA is taking too much efforts to be in touch with all the teachers, give them the updated knowledge of the language, and such kind of enthusiastic officers are there in the RA. So I am very happy for this particular initiative. Kalimuddin Sheikh sir, who is a real scholar and a great philosopher. I mean it that sir always be in the positive initiative, whichever positive things they observe, they can be the part of the, they want to the part of that particular initiatives. And they are in that particular institute of SIEM or English Language Institute, which is formerly known as RA Aurangabad now. I am once again congratulate all our dignitaries for this particular initiative. And thank you once again, Vishal sir, Sheikh sir, for inviting me to this. And I will congratulate all the teachers who have joined here, because your will to join this particular program is the great thing, which can lead you to the better human being, better learner of the English language. And for that matter, you have joined, that is very big thing. On the holiday, you are joining on this particular session, and this session is available on YouTube also. That is also a good thing, that everyone can visit it again and again, and use this particular knowledge, this particular pedagogy in your classroom. For that matter, I wish you the best luck. And once again, I thank you, all the team of RA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm very happy for your valuable words. Certainly, whatever you have suggested here, we will follow the path here. Okay, thank you, sir. Again, now it is time to start the session of our guest today. Before starting his session or his speech, I would like to introduce Mr. Nisar Sheikh, our guest today. I shoulder this responsibility to Ms. Rohini Mali ma'am. Mali ma'am, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes. Please give a brief introduction of Ms. Nisar.
Okay. Sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon, one and all. Actually, I'm too much happy to give you introduction of Honorable Nisar sir. Today, I have shouldered a great opportunity to introduce a person for whom we can say knowledge bank and inspiration for all of us. As we know that he is primary teacher working in Zilla Parishad School, Kate Pimpalgaon, Block Gangapur, District Aurangabad. He has completed his MA English, MEd, SET, and NET in education. Nisar has wealth of experience in the field of English language teaching. He has worked as a state academic resource person, as we know, SAP, as the regional academic authority, English expertise, Aurangabad. In this role, he was responsible for coordinating the spoken English program, advanced spoken English, and blended model of spoken English MOOC, that is massive open online course projects. He has also worked as a mentor in the Action Research Mentoring Scheme ARMS project sponsored by the British Council, Delhi, India. Nisar is an active presenter at various international and national conferences. He presented the learning of the Tejas project at the ITFL conference 2018 in Britain, UK, and at the MATSOL conference held at the University of Hull, UK. He is currently pursuing, as we know that he is currently pursuing his MATSOL at the University of Leeds, United Kingdom. Proud of you, Nisar. I have worked with him for 5 years, and this is very opportunity to me to introduce Nisar sir. I will not take much time between you and Nisar sir. This is the great opportunity to enlighten us, enrich us. Over to you, Honorable Nisar sir.
Yeah, thank you, Rohini ma'am. Making the introduction very short. Let me share my screen. Yeah, very good evening to all of you. I am Nisar Sheikh, as already introduced by Rohini ma'am, and lots of things said by him. Presently, I am feeling very much honored to be given the responsibility to give a talk on the 4 strands of the secret of vocabulary learning. And I really appreciate all the teachers, those who have joined for this session despite of Sunday. It shows how you consider your CPD as an effective tool and your willingness to learn something new, innovative that will be very beneficial for your learners. So I really appreciate for you, all of you, for joining this session. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank Honorable Dr. Kalimuddin Sheikh sir, who is the Director of Regional Academic Authority, for starting these great initiatives where sharing the teachers with various pedagogical perspectives and strategies that can be useful for them in the classrooms. I also like to thank Dr. Rajesh Kankal sir, Deputy Director from BMC, joining and sharing his insights about the English language teaching. So it was really good to hear him about his perspectives about English language teaching. As well as I would like to thank Dr. Vishal Taide sir for giving me the opportunity, inviting me to share my understanding about this concept with all of you. I am really thankful to you very much, sir. I also like to thank my mentors, Dr. Arun Sangolkar sir, Dr. Ujwal Karwande sir, Dr. Pramod Kumar sir, all the other HODs of English from various diets, and all my dear teachers and my dear friends. It's really, I'm feeling very much blessed to share my learning with you all. And I hope, and I'm feeling very much confident that whatever learning I will share with you, it will be very useful for you. It is very beneficial, and hope it will be useful for you in your classroom teaching as well. Friends, when we are talking about vocabulary language teaching, mostly we focus on the teaching aspect of the language. We never focus on the learning aspect of the language. We consider teaching is the only aspect where everything we have to do it, but the learning has been given a less weightage. According to my experience, it can be been various experience for all of you. So whenever we are learning any new language, it is not about English, all language. The main purpose is about the communication or the use of that language, maybe in the form of written or oral. The key component is the vocabulary, because it is very key in useful for developing your communication skills, as well as it is the foundation for other aspects of English language teaching. For example, the vocabulary helps in developing the skills of listening, speaking, reading, writing as well. So it has a very crucial role in the teaching of English language, as well as if we consider the student learning outcomes, the importance is mostly given on the academic achievements of the learners. And automatically, when the vocabulary is having the influence on all the other skills, it will have the impact on the academic achievement of the student as well. So I consider this is a very important area that we should explore more, try to dive in deeper and understand how this vocabulary teaching or learning can be made very useful for the learners. So before I begin with my session, I will like to share you the outline of my presentation. So I will start my presentations with explaining the importance of high frequency words, what are the high frequency words and how it can be made useful. Second is about the 4 strands of vocabulary learning. Third, I will talk about what are the various activities that are useful for these 4 strands of vocabulary learning. What are the various conditions for effective vocabulary learning? And last, we will end the session by having a QA session. Before I start, I want to make this session more interactive, and I want you, all of you, to share your thoughts about what do you think, what is the average vocabulary does your children have in your classrooms? What is the number? I want to find out. So you can type in the chat box your comments according to your experiences, or what do you think? How many vocabulary do your student have? Let me. Okay, I'm getting some responses. 200, 5,000, okay, 300 and 500, okay, 100 to 150, 300. Yeah, good. Lots of responses. Many of the range is varying from 100 to 300, 500. Maybe for upper primary learners, it is a general question. Mostly it depends on the level of the learner, maybe from primary or secondary, the level of the learners, maybe the secondary age learners, they have more vocabulary. Okay. So if you want to calculate on average for primary, it is 100 to 500, and maybe for upper primary, they are showing the responses shows that it is 1,000. So getting the feedback from this, I just want to explore why it is important to know how many vocabulary does a student in your class he knows about it. Because if we know about this, it will really help us in the classroom as well as for developing his vocabulary knowledge. So the first one is about how to know what vocabulary your learners has acquired or he's capable of using it. And accordingly, we can plan the teaching and we can give them the input regarding that. For this, Paul Nation, who is considered as a big name in the field of vocabulary teaching, and his focus is on the specialization in the area of vocabulary. So he developed a test of picture vocabulary size test, which you can access through this link maybe afterwards, where he has created 6,000 words, all are developed through pictures. And you can use that, you can download the test from the website, and you can use it for assessing the level or the size of your vocabulary of your students. So this is very useful aspect where the student, those who are unable to read, those who are at the initial stage of learning the vocabulary language. So from this 6,000 words, you can give them the test. They have to see the pictures and have to name the pictures accordingly. And some of the students, maybe some of them, they are teaching to a higher secondary level. For that, they have developed a 5-level test where the test is divided into 5 levels, starting from the beginner level to the upper intermediate as well as advanced level. But this test should be taken only for the student, those who are good at reading, they are fluent in reading, and you can check the number of the words they know. This 5-level test is also divided into various levels, maybe from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and you can understand how this level can be assessed. So knowing the level of the learner is very important. This is the primary stage, or we can say the foundational stage for starting the vocabulary teaching. So by conducting this test, we can identify what is the vocabulary size of our learners, and accordingly we can plan what input we should give to our learners to develop their vocabulary at a good space. Moving ahead, what does the research says about this then? So how many words learned in a year by the student? So how many words a student can generally learn? So the research says that by Miller and Solmin, they have identified the native learners can learn 1,000 words in a year. In 1 year, the students, they can learn 1,000 words, but it is for home language or mother language. Considering about the English language, Milton says that 400 to 500 words can be learned by a student in 1 year. So we can see it mostly depend on what input we are giving, how much exposure we are giving to the learner, how much opportunity is there, how much he is encountering that particular word various time. It depends on various factors, but generally the research suggests that in a year, a student can learn 400 to 500 words of English. So getting an understanding what the research is saying in this regard. Now here you can see some words are mentioned here. In the first one is horse or steed, wood or timber. Third one is house or dwelling. This question is for you as a teacher. When you're speaking or when you're writing, reading, what is the most familiar word or the word you encounter and you use in your day-to-day life? You have to just type in the chat box which words you're using: horse or steed, wood or timber, house or dwelling. You can type in the chat box. Okay, good. First one. Almost majority of the responses are showing that they are using the first initial words which are given on the screen: horse, wood, and house. Many of them, they are not using the words steed, timber, and dwelling. And if we compare these words, the meaning of the word is same, but we are only using these starting words. So what is the reason behind this? So the reason for this is we are using the words which are most high frequency words, the words which are used frequently in our day-to-day life. So what are high frequency word and low frequency words? So the words which occur more in the text are used by most of the students or the teachers or any other individuals. They are considered as most frequent words or high frequency words. And there are some other words, those who are a least frequent word, and they are not mostly used, like we have seen in the earlier example of house and dwell. So you can see there we are using mostly the frequent words like house. We are not encountering the dwell word many times, and we are not using that word. So it shows that a general perceptions among the participants or teachers is that we are using the words which are used highly or most frequent word. So there may be a question in your mind. So how these words have been decided, whether they are high frequency or low frequency? For this, a research was conducted by Webb and Nation as well as Dang Yan, and I'm very much fortunate that I got the opportunity to study under them. They have differentiated these words into the various levels, like 1,000 word, 2,000 word. The first stage is 1,000, second stage is 3,000, second stage is 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, likewise. And these words were categorized using the corpus. So what is corpus? Corpus is a collection of text where the frequency of words is judged. For example, British National Corpus, which is free of available on the platform, and you can use as well. If you type a particular word, for example, if you type house and dwell, so it shows how the frequency of the word which is used by across the globe. And it shows that the use of word house is more often than the dwell. So this shows that this corpus is very useful to decide the frequency of the word. And interestingly, what they found in the research is you can see on the screen, they have identified that the first 1,000 words covers the 65 to 88% of the language we use in our day-to-day communication. For example, good, think. So the frequency level is the first 1,000 words. The corpus shows that we are using this first 1,000 words very frequently, and it covers about 65 to 88%. So what this percentage shows that we are using frequently this 1,000 words. And as a teacher, if somebody shows me this data, what I will think about is I can teach them other words as well, which are not frequent. Maybe sometimes they're important, but my first target will be to focus on these first 1,000 words and make my students able to communicate or use the English very fluently or frequently in the day-to-day communication. So I will target this first 1,000 frequency word. Maybe a question in your mind, how to get this list of words. So as I have already shared the link at the earlier slides, where you can go on the website of Pollination and you can download the frequency level words accordingly. So the first 1,000 words, second 1,000 words. And if you see, as you go down below, the second is 1,000, third is fifth, badge, calf. And when you go above the 10,000 words, you can see the words we have never used or never heard as well. And this is because we have not encountered these words in any text from academic as well as from our context. So that's why they are the less frequent words. But the words we are frequently facing, they are the first 1,000 words and second 1,000 words. So we try to focus on these words because these words, as a teacher, if we focus on these words, this will definitely help us to develop the conversation skills of the learners, as well as when they are watching TVs, reading newspapers, in their day-to-day life, they will be able to understand, comprehend whatever the reading they are doing, the meaning they are getting. So it's very important to consider all these aspects. So the first aim was to introduce you to the importance of frequency level of the words. So the criteria for selecting the words will be the first. As a teacher, for example, in my classroom, if I want to teach, my first criteria will be what is the frequency of that particular word, whether it is highly frequent or it is low frequent. And basis on this, I will decide. The second criteria will be about the purpose, whatever you're teaching in the classroom, whether it is familiar to the learner or not. And third important is about the interest of the learner. Whatever the vocabulary we are teaching them, it should be to their interest level, it should meet the interest level, and it should be useful for them as well. Now coming to the main topic of the presentation today is about the 4 strands. So what are strands? First, we will try to understand what are strands. So strand is nothing, just a thread or wire, or it is a string of pearls tied in a string. We can consider it at this. And this principle of four strand was proposed by Paul Nation, as I have already mentioned him again already in the slides. And he said that the teaching of English language should be well balanced. And for this, he has suggested 4 strands. That is, the first one is meaning focus input, the first strand. The second is meaning focused output. Third is language focused learning. And the fourth is fluency development. So he has suggested these 4 strands, and these 4 strands are integrated equally for teaching a balanced approach of vocabulary language teaching in the classroom. So we have to use these 4 strands for teaching in the classroom. So how to do this? He says that the 4 strands are equally divided. They have the equal weightage. It should have equal time to be considered while teaching in the classroom. So the first stage is input. The input is of 25% weightage, which is having the equal amount of time. The second strand is talking about the output, and it is also of 25% weightage. The third strand is language focused learning, that we call this deliberate learning, and it weightage 25%. And the last and the most important, fluency development. It covers 25% of weightage as well. So the total weightage is 100%. What he's trying to suggest here is all the 4 strands have the equal amount of time, as well as the content, whatever we are teaching to them, should cover all these 4 strands in an integrated way, in the balanced approach for teaching vocabulary learning. We have to give the appropriate time for all these 4 strands equally importantly. So this will help to develop a good vocabulary learning acquisition. Now let's see these strands individually. What does it mean? What are the conditions it covered, and what are the activities we should cover in this? The first is meaning focus input. Now, in meaning focus input, the main goal is on receptive knowledge. Whatever the listening or through reading, whatever the new knowledge the learner is getting is considered here. And this is considered as very important aspect of 4 strand. This is the first stage. It is very important. And lots of learning, majority of the learning of vocabulary learning is done in this stage. is meaning focus input. So input means the learner is getting the input of knowledge, new vocabulary, or new ideas through various contexts, reading, listening. But for this, they require some conditions. The first thing is the whatever we are teaching them, or whatever the learner is learning by himself. It is not about only teaching, it is about self-learning as well. It should be the content he's reading, it should be interested. It is about his interest, and the context should be familiar to him. Hello? Hello?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay. So earlier I was audible because I just seen that it was mute.
No, you are audible. No problem. Please carry
Okay.
on.
Yeah.
Please
My
share the
screen-
screen.
Yeah, my screen sharing has also stopped automatically.
Now it's okay. It's visible to us.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So these are the conditions: familiarity, context clues, and background knowledge. In these, many of the students, they are already familiar with some of the new knowledge of vocabulary they have come across during their day-to-day lives. And when they are reading that same word or that same vocabulary in the context of classroom teaching, maybe in the text of course book, they will try to correlate with the background knowledge where they have seen that particular object. For example, giving an example of a dog, they know that dog is an animal and they have seen the dog animal, but when they see the word in the text, they try to contextualize it with their background knowledge and try to refer it is a domestic animal, I have seen it. So it helps them to understand. So contextual background or learning vocabulary in context also helps them. And the last is quantity of input. Whatever the input they are getting, it should have lots of input. As we know, our learners, they are learning as English as a third language, and maximum they get only 35 minutes in their classrooms for learning English. So the focus should be more, giving more and more exposure of quantity of input to the learners and how it can benefit for the learners. So focus should be on quantity of input. Now, moving ahead, for this stage, meaning focus input, what activities we can conduct? I will request the participants to share the activities in the chat box. What do you think? What are the best activities that can be given to the learners using language effectively? You can type it in the chat box. Okay, chat is disabled. I think chat has been disabled. Fine. So I will share you the activities. Yeah. So for meaning focus input, we can use extensive reading, where the learners are learning the resource or reading the resources, which is very useful for them. For example, they are reading the stories, comics, they like very much pictures of the various stories, and it's very useful for them. And this extensive reading helps them to try to learn the word from the context. And this can be a good activity to conduct the activity. The second is about shared reading, listening to stories. And now this listening to stories is also a type of input where the learners are get acquainted with new vocabulary as the teacher is reading, or they're watching a YouTube video or animation on the mobile as well. So it serves the purpose of input. It is not necessary. It is the teaching is happening in the classroom. Nowadays, due to the use of internet, many of the students have got the smartphones, and the internet is helping them to get more exposure to the English language in the form of rhymes, in the forms of various vocabulary activities, games, as well as the words, vocabulary word games, stories, animated stories. So this can serve the purpose of meaning focus input, and it is the major aspect where they should get the input of 25%, the equal weightage, and a majority of the learning happens in this stage, that is the meaning focus input. Moving ahead to the next aspect is about meaning focus output. How this output is useful for the vocabulary learning. Again, we are connecting the 4 strands. This is the second strand. And here the goal is, now they have got the input. It is mostly based on whatever the input they have got. We will try to give them the output opportunities in this. Now here, if you see, learning is done through speaking and writing, and in the form of development of productive skills. The focus is on the output. But one thing we have to consider, whatever input we have given in the first strand, that only can be used as output. As a teacher or as a parent, we should not try to expect from the learners the new vocabulary or the new learning as an output from them. So it is connected with the input. Whatever the input they have received, the output will be based on the same. It will be easy for the learners to produce the outcome of whatever the learning they have come through it. Second condition is about opportunities to speak and write. In the classroom, or maybe out of the classroom, or in day-to-day life, the learner should get the opportunities to speak and write in the classroom as well. Because many of the time, the learners, they're getting lots of input, but they're not getting the opportunity to produce it or to show whatever the learning they have done or use it. So vocabulary learning is not only just acquainting whatever the knowledge they have received, but it is also to produce what knowledge they have used. And if you want to make store that vocabulary memory in the long-term memory of the learner, it should be used in various contexts. Opportunities to speak and write. And the third and important is about the communication strategies. When the learner is communicating in the form of speaking or writing, for example, for speaking, he can use gestures or gestures, as well as he can use miming to show some of the communication strategy, facial expressions that can be useful for him. Talking about what are the activities that can be conducted in this meaning focus output way is about conversation, role play, writing about self, telling stories. So these are the various activities, and I know many of the teachers, they have lots of ideas about using these activities. But the aim is it should only cover the 25% of weightage of whatever the activity. It should be balanced. All the 4 strands should be balanced. So 25, whatever the time we have spent in the input of 25%, the output also should give 25% of weightage. Moving ahead with the third strand. Language focused learning. Now, this is the learning of, we can also call it as deliberate learning, and this is done in the classroom mostly. Whatever the teaching we are doing in the classroom, that is called as deliberate learning, and the focus is on how this deliberate learning is developing the vocabulary of the learners. teachers assumes that this language focused learning or deliberate learning is the only way to teach the vocabulary to the learners. The teacher is teaching them lots of vocabulary using various strategies, activities, but the focus is on only the language focused learning, and the teacher is the main, he is playing the dominant role in this, and he's trying to teach more and more words or aspects of learning. The focus is on use of course books or textbooks in the classrooms and focusing the various skills. And the condition is the student should deliberately focus on the whatever the teacher is teaching in the classroom. So it is an ideal classroom situation, language focused learning, where the learning is happening and the students are focusing deliberately what is happening in the classroom. As a teacher, the teacher should consider some of the aspects while using this strand. And here he can use the simplicity way of dealing with the learners in the classrooms. As we have seen, according to the ASER reports, the students' achievement level is low and the course books level is very high. And if we are using that same course book for the learners, it will be difficult for them to capture the meaning, new meaning, and use them in a particular language, because if the level is low. So we need some other materials, supplementary materials, identifying the level of the learners and giving them the input. That can be a useful way of giving the language focused learning. In this, what activities are the teachers conducting? The one focus is on intensive reading, listening, pronunciation activities, using substitution drills, learning vocabulary from the flashcards. These are the activities which are done in the classrooms purposefully, intensively, rigorously by the teachers, and the students have to pay attention in the classroom. The nation argues that though this strand is important, but it should again have only the equal amount of time of 25% stage. It should not cover the whole learning of vocabulary in the classroom. It should have only the one part of the strand, and other parts of the strand can play their own role. Moving to the last strand, that is fluency development. And this is also an important aspect. The aim here is to improve the fluency and the language items of the learners of all the 4 skills: listening, speaking, writing. And here the focus is on developing the speed and reinforcing their learning. The main condition is whatever they have learned already, they have to be used here as same as in the what they have learned from the input. And if you want to get more better results, it is better to use more low level of the materials. For example, if the student is at the C level, you try to use the material which is at the D level, one stage below level, because this is the fluency development. We are focusing on speed, reinforcing them to do it very fast. We are encouraging them. So if the material is useful, which is at the low level, the students will get more engaged in that, and they will try to capture the fluency in a very fast way, and they can be useful way for developing the fluencies. So what are the various activities that can be conducted in the classroom for fluency development? The one is speed reading, 3-to-1, where the students are asked to work in the pairs and they have to say a story in 3 minutes first, then the second he has to say the same story in 2 minutes, and the last one again in the same in the 1 minute. So increasing their fluency, repeating the same what they have learned. This can be done through 3-to-1 activity. Again, about listening to stories is also a very good activity for development of fluency. So here we are talking about the fluency of listening fluency, whatever they are comprehending from whatever the teacher is reading or from the audio. If the language or the phrases which are initially introduced in the story, they are simple, they will try to grasp it, and automatically the teacher can move ahead at the higher level, and this will help them to develop their listening fluency as well. So these were the 4 strands of English language vocabulary teaching. And if you want to correlate with the context of our classroom or with our textbook. I have taken one example of my English book 3, page number 6, where the focus is the instruction is saying join the same words with a line. The focus here is on only one activity. But if we consider the 4 strands, we can try to incorporate as much activities. It's not necessary that in every activity we can do it, but it can be done in some of the activities. And we can try to give the equal exposure or opportunities that we have considered in the 4 strands. Here we can give them the first activity, for example, listening. The teacher can show the flashcard and ask the students to repeat the words after him. So this is a type of deliberate learning. This is the deliberate strand where the teacher is trying to give the direct input to the learners, and learners are learning intensively and responding to the teachers. Second is about reading the words by working in the pairs and showing the pictures to each other and trying to guess or read the word. So here both input and output is working. And the last, what is the ultimate aim, is about associating the words with the same word. Here they are reading the words and joining the words with the same words. What we have tried here is about practicing the same activity and giving the exposure to the various strands where the students are getting the opportunity to get the input, output, as well as deliberate learning. So when you are trying to develop, it's not necessary that in a single lesson you have to try and cover all these 4 areas. Maybe you can develop a 2-hour course, or in a 1 week, you can keep a record that in the 1 week, I am going to give the equal opportunity for these equal all 4 strands, and it can be useful for the learners to acquire that language. So that was the about the 4 strands, what the Paul Nation has suggested, and according to research, it has been very useful for the development of vocabulary. Now talking about what are the conditions. So this is the last stage of our presentation where we are talking which conditions are very important for vocabulary learning. So the first one is there are 2 important conditions. First is the repetition, and second is the quality of attention. Now here repetition does not mean that we are focusing the learners to learn rote learning, but it is the repetition which they have learned the word and they are encountering that same word in the different context, or they are maybe after some time they're repeating that same word. So this is the good strategy of using the repetition technique in our classrooms. So repetition can also be divided into 2 types. The first is exact repetition, and the second is varied repetition. So exact repetition is the same words, for example, bat, cat, whatever the teacher has taught, the students are repeating the same exact words, maybe after the class or in the home or outside the class. And varied repetition is using the same words in the different context. So they have studied the bat today as a vocabulary item. Next day, they are studying the bat about a story or about in a text passage. They are seeing the word there. So they are encountering the word again in the different context. So this is the varied repetition. Again, the repetitions can be divided into 2 types, considering the various factors. So here it is immediate repetition and the spaced repetition. For example, in immediate means you're doing the immediate repetition after the class, and in spaced repetition, it can be done after 2 days or 5 to 10 minutes later of the lessons, maybe 1 day after, 1 week later, or 1 month later, or 6 months later. And the research has suggested that, according to Webb, a student needs a repetition of words, maybe 5 to 15 encounters are necessary for a particular word. Considering this aspect, spaced repetitions plays a very important role, where the vocabulary is repeated after 24 hours of the classroom teaching 1 week later. For example, if the teacher has taught them about the names of vegetables today, the teacher can repeat the same words next day. Maybe she can conduct a review of the vocabulary they have learned. Maybe at the next week, she can just again have a play a different activity of vocabulary where these words have been practiced in different contexts. And again, same in the 1 month later and 6 months later. If we give the opportunity for the students to encounter the word again and again, there is the highest chances and opportunity that the students will learn that particular word. Talking about quality of attention, the different conditions that we have talked, that is retrieval and varied use. So retrieval is recalling the same words in the different contexts, maybe after some times. So they are recalling from their short-term memory into the long-term memory. And this helps them to build their vocabulary acquisition. And the last one is varied use. So using the same words in the different contexts. And these will help them to acquire the vocabulary. So these are the conditions that as a teacher, we have to consider for developing the vocabulary of the learners. So a quick summary of the presentation. We have tried to identify how the importance of high frequency words in our classroom teaching is, how to identify the high frequency words and use in our classrooms. We have tried to explore the 4 strands: input, output, deliberate learning, and as well as fluency development. Then we have tried to identify what are the various activities that we can use in classrooms related to the 4 strands. And the last, what are the conditions that can be useful for the learners in the classrooms. So to end my presentations, now the platform is open. If you have any doubt regarding these 4 strands or what are the conditions, we can have a QA session. But before that, I will recommend these 2 books. These are the core books of vocabulary learning, which I have referred for this as a presentation. And as a teacher, I definitely think every teacher should have these books for vocabulary learning and teaching. One is written by Stuart Verb and Paul Nation, and the other is from Paul Nation. These are very useful books as a teacher. You should have these books in your library for developing the English language teaching. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, Titus, for inviting me and giving this opportunity to share whatever the learning I have with all my dear teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much,
Nice to hear
sir.
you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
we
you,
are
sir.
really grateful to Mr. Nisar, sir. This is one of the excellent session I listened in recent past. We have explored various areas of vocabulary development. Vocabulary is the base of language learning, and to make the process of learning vocabulary is really insightful to all of us, sir. Thank you, Nisar, sir, once again for accepting our invitation and conducting such a wonderful session here. I am again thankful to Mr. Rajesh Kankal, sir. Rajji, only a single phone call was sufficient for him. He is truly a down-to-earth officer, I would like to say. Again, I am very thankful to Mr. Kankal, sir. Again, I would like to thank Mr. Rohini Mali, ma'am, for introducing our guest. Then my colleagues, Dr. Berappa Shinde, sir, Dr. Rajesh Chaudhary, sir, who has handled all technical aspects of the session. I am most thankful to our director, Sheikh, sir, and my other all colleagues of Regional Academic Authority and District Institute of Aurangabad, who are very supportive and helpful in all the initiatives we undertake. Last but not least, all of you, dear friends, without your active participation, I could not have conducted such a webinar here. Despite Sunday, all teachers and language lovers joined this session, and within only 5 minutes, the webinar has reached a maximum limit. So we will try to expand the limit in next section. Thank you for joining, all of you. Okay, thank you, sir.
I would like to thank you, sir, because just because of you, we are here and we can listen, Nisar sir. So thank you on behalf of all the teachers to give us this very opportunity. And I would request to you that we want one more session from Nisar sir.
Thank you,
Okay,
Taide
thank
sir. Thank you, Vichai
Thank you,
Taide
sir.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nisar sir. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because
you,
of
ma'am.
you only we received the opportunity,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Khaire ma'am. Your role was also instrumental in the organization. Thank you for your.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.